More than anything, I want to welcome you in as we talk about the subject that seems to be no one's talking about. No one seems to want to talk about insulin resistance. The doctors aren't talking about it. We'll talk about diabetes, we'll talk about heart disease, we'll talk about all these things, but we really don't talk about the root cause. Now, that's incredibly difficult for somebody who is diagnosed with diabetes, with type 2 diabetes at a 6.9 in 2023. I'm sitting there going, what do I do? The doctor doesn't give me any medication, says eat less, move more. Been there, done that. And what I realized is this, that I was like 93% of Americans. We're talking about 93% of US Americans are metabolically unhealthy. There I was. I want to make sure that you check out that this is from endocrinology and metabolism, that 93% of us are metabolically unhealthy. Now, that's a little disturbing fact, right? When you begin to realize what's been going on with all of us. Now, if 93% of us are unhealthy, that means when you're driving down the road and you pass 10 cars, that means that 9 of those drivers are sick. Do you feel safe with that? Does that sound good? Or how many of y'all are parents? If you're a parent, and you're type 1 in the comment. If you're a parent, type 1 in the comment. If you're a parent and you have a classroom with 100 kids and 90 of the kids are failing, 93 of the kids are failing and only 7 are passing, is that an issue of the kids or is that an issue of what's going on in the scenario of what's happening? So for me, it was back in 2023 that I was diagnosed with diabetes. I did not feel good. I did not look good. It was not a pleasant thing. My wife, the beautiful Dr. Ju that does Healthy Together and Feeling Great with me, was diagnosed the very next month. The only thing different was in our journey was that her doctor, which was the same doctor as mine, if you can believe that, said, hey, you know what? You need to have 4 meds. My doctor didn't give me any of that guidance. Didn't give me any of that guidance whatsoever. So I'm sitting there stuck going, what do I do? Well, she got on the phone and called a friend who was a nurse and a diabetes educator. Now, I don't know many people that have that, but she's a doctor, right? She knows some people. How many of y'all know some nurses or doctors that are diabetes educators? How many of you know some that are out there trying to help people all the time? Right, because many are. But here's the thing. When I sit there and say 93% of us are metabolically unhealthy, you want to know the crazy part about this? It doesn't seem like this ever gets put 2 and 2 together. But 95% of us don't get enough fiber. Now, when we talk about metabolism, that's what we're talking about. Imagine for a second what it's like that, you get up in the morning and you go downstairs and you got to go out to the car and you've got to adjust the seatbelt, adjust the steering wheel so you can get into the car. It's not a pleasant thing. You're tired and exhausted at the end of the day. Maybe this is you that you get finished with a meal and you're thinking about what's the next thing that I'm going to eat? What am I going to do next? What am I going to eat next? Where am I going to go next? Thank you for the likes and the welcome in, by the way. I'm Ken. I'm up in Alaska. Make sure you put a comment. Say, hey, give me a wave. Let me know you're there, right? So thank you so very much for being here. Here's what we don't realize is that something happened, and now people put different dates on there. I look at 1963. 1963 was the year that the people that came up with Camel cigarettes would buy their very first food company, and that would be Hawaiian Punch, right? Punchy would get purchased right there. And those tobacco companies would go to eventually buy all of our food companies. Now, what they would wind up doing was making a decision, hey, you're back again. All right, very good. And what they would do is they took as I was saying, you came in about the same time. They took all the fiber out of our food. All of the fiber was taken out of our food, right? You're back again, Oakley, 1, 2, 3. I appreciate it. So they took all that fiber out of our food. Now, what we didn't realize was that fiber is what's been keeping things in check when it comes to insulin resistance. And when I talk about insulin resistance, I'm talking about all of these things right here. I'm talking about this incredible list of things that we're dealing with that for many of us, some of these we've been struggling with for 10 or 15 years before. I'm going to jump over to my green screen, see if I can pull this up. Apologize for that for just a second. Green screen just kind of works that way. But for 10 to 15 years, we've been dealing with these signs and symptoms that are not being addressed. Our doctors are not explaining this to us at all. And for 10 or 15 years, we're dealing with all of this information. We're talking about things like frequent hunger that we have all day, the brain fog, PCOS in ladies, erectile dysfunction in men, fatty liver disease. You made the video. All right, I will have to follow that when I get off and jump over there. I didn't even get a chance. I haven't even, I was in and out real quick. I had a conflict there. So when we're dealing with these things, we don't get the solution to the problem. And the issue is right over here, this insulin resistance. Thank you. When will you get off? Well, that's a great question. What time is it? 1:35. Maybe in about 15 to 20 minutes or so, depending on how my live's going. So, those of y'all that are coming in again, I want to welcome you in. I'm Ken. I'm up in Anchorage, Alaska, known up here, and we're focusing a good bit on our health today and what is the root cause of today's struggles that so many are dealing with, that I was dealing with. It's not something that just is out there and that nobody is I'm doing it as a nutrition coach, as somebody that struggled with it. That's been the reality for so many people. So that insulin resistance has everything to do with what we drink. Okay, I will do that. I'm going to make a note to make sure that I go over to Oakley 123 when I get off. All right. I appreciate it, man. I do appreciate it. So what's happening? Well, part of it is insulin resistance relates to a very simple thing that many of us don't know. It's not explained to us, not at all, not well, not from our doctors. But insulin is an anabolic hormone. It is a hormone that helps fat to grow. And when you remove it from our bodies, or you remove it, it's trying to remove the sugar and put it any place that it can. And once that's happening, and we keep eating all day, that blood sugar spikes and the insulin increases. We're talking about diabetes ultimately. I mean, that's one of the main things that we always think about with insulin. But what we doesn't explain to us is how insulin increases inflammation. I did see the message. Copy that. I will check it out. All right. So I will go over and check your channel out, and we'll make sure that we'll flip that subscribing right there. So what we've got to do is we've got to address insulin resistance at its root, not tepidly, but we got to name it. We got to not only name it, but we have to address it. Bye now. I appreciate you. Thank you so much. We've got to go right to the root cause of it, because what's happening in our bodies is something right here, that our cells use insulin so our glucose can use it for energy. You probably heard that. How many of y'all have heard that we need glucose for energy? We need to get our carbohydrates for energy. If you've heard that, type yes in the comment. Just put a yes down there. Let me know what you're looking at, because that's one of the things. But what's not talked about is how insulin impacts that. Insulin's trying to get it over there. But we get so much in there that basically what happens is our cells go with all of that sugar. And when they become resistant to the insulin, you can't put any more in that cell. So we got to bring down that insulin level. So we shrink those cells down so we can tap into our fat stores for fuel. And that's key to this. That's key to this journey. So I want you to think about it just for a second. Now, for me, when I started this journey, when I began it, I really didn't know what was going on. Dr. G kicked me out of the bed. I had to go sleep on the couch, and bless her heart that she had to listen to that. The dogs were quite happy with that, but it wasn't a pleasant thing. That snoring was keeping her awake at night. The sleep apnea, the anxiety, the migraines. When I started to change, when I changed the protocol within the very first week, for me, my migraines and the snoring stopped. I wasn't dealing with that anymore. And so that was huge. Well, a good way to think about it is to think about what happens when you drink alcohol. You have to drink more and more alcohol, right, in order to get the effects of it. Well, when we're insulin resistant, we've got to have more and more insulin. Our body's trying to force it in there, and the medical profession is trying to force it in there, all right, by giving it more and more insulin, trying to just push all of that sugar right into the cells. Well, that's not working. That's not working. So we're experiencing this whole entire list of things. I mean, when we look at it, we're talking about stroke, we're talking about heart disease, we're talking about high blood pressure, we're talking Alzheimer's and arthritis, fatty liver disease, PCOS, childhood obesity, high blood pressure. And it's wearing us out. It's wearing us down. And once diabetes occurs, you know what? You increase your chance of heart disease by 80%. Alzheimer's rates go up by 81%. We even have kids as young as 3 that are showing up with non-alcoholic fatty liver disease, and 1 in 3 teenagers is now diagnosed with prediabetes. It all starts to show 10 to 15 years before we even get diagnosed with diabetes, right? So what are we going to do about it? For me, it was listening to my wife who really found the solution. And I always will say, I listened to my wife and it saved my life. I listened to my wife, and it saved my life. And then I delved down this road of learning if the protocol worked, why does it work? What is the nutrition behind it? Because if it's food, if everything is based on food, why is that working? Why is the food being the issue? Because if it's that simple, why are we not addressing it? If reversing insulin resistance and the conditions with metabolic syndrome are food related, which, if you'll listen to doctors online, cardiologists, America's cardiologists, change your diet, but get on meds. Well, if food is the issue, if food really is the issue, then if we change that, our metabolism, if we address metabolism, guess what we would wind up doing? We would address metabolic syndrome. So the protocol was something that our company looked at and said, hey, you know what? We've got to address this issue. Back in the 70s, as I said, 1963, we started taking fiber out of the food, and our companies looked at it and said, we got to put fiber back in the food. That's the best thing to do. So they developed a fiber that was a blend of 7 different soluble and insoluble fibers. They sent it out to universities and research centers like the University of Sydney in Australia, home of the glycemic index. They sent it out to the Cleveland Clinic, arguably the #1 heart hospital. They sent it to Cornell. It's been studied at UCLA. It's been studied at Brigham Young University. This whole protocol has been addressed, that it lowers cholesterol, that it helps to reverse insulin resistance and controls the blood sugar issues. These are nutraceuticals. These are not pharmaceuticals. And I think that's something that gets tripped up too for many people. Physicians trust the PDR.net. If you're not familiar with it, it's where my wife goes to write prescriptions every single time. Oh. See if I can pull this up. The PDR.net right here. All right. This is where they go to write the prescriptions. Well, this simple protocol is in the PDR.net. It is right there. Now, ask any diabetic. When you are got low blood sugar and were to go to the hospital, what are they going to give you? Type in the comments. If they go to the hospital, what are they going to give you? They're going to give you juice, right? They're going to basically throw it at you. You're going to drink it, but they're going to throw it at you. Well, here's the thing. Juice, originally in nature, comes packaged in fiber. Fiber keeps blood sugar under control. Fiber's keeping that blood sugar under control. Now, here's the thing we've got to remember. Keeping that blood sugar control, bringing down that postprandial glucose spike is a huge thing that we've got to do. You've got to do that. There is nothing you can do. If you are insulin resistant, you are pre-diabetic, you have got to bring the insulin down. You have got to get control of the blood sugar. That's what this product does. And here's the thing. The tea does, in its own way, its own version of it. This is delicious chlorogenic acid tea. I drink when I wake up in the morning. We're not going to jump into the Kellogg's. We're not jumping into the cornflakes. We start drinking a tea. This right here crushes my hunger every single time. Every single time, this crushes my hunger. Complete game changer. And if you just drink on it and sip on it all morning, when you get to the morning time, you get to lunch, then you eat if you want. If not, you keep going and you keep sipping. When you get to a meal, you make sure that you have fiber. Fiber is key right there. This is going to lower your LDL, lower triglycerides, increase HDL, lower down your A1C. The tea crushes that hunger. And this great part about this is something that is absolutely incredible. Is a natural GLP-1. Is a natural metformin. Is a natural statin. Researched and studied all over the world. So if you're interested in learning more, make sure you go to Healthy Together and Feeling Great. Learn more about what we get doing. Check our videos. Just did a posted video about my 3 habits. I talk more about it in there. Thank you so much for being on right now. Go get the day. Make it golden. We'll see you back around on the flip side.